from trash-talking capybaras to a space-bending casita, and Camilo transforming into a giant Bruno. The early versions of Encanto had some truly weird and wild storylines. Yippee-ki-yay, movie lovers, I'm Jan, and these are the surprisingly strange stories Disney cancelled in Encanto. Some spoilers ahead, of course, so take care. Trash-talking capybaras. One of my favourite animals in Encanto was Chispy the capybara, whose cool, unbothered demeanour added a lovely touch of comic relief to the drama of various scenes. And we nearly got a lot more of the cute creatures in a very strange storyline, as early concept art for the movie reveals some cheeky taxidermied capybaras who like to trash talk and pass comment on the family. In fact, in this piece of concept art, it looks like one of the stuffed animals was being taken out of the house, perhaps because it was making too much of a nuisance of itself. And I think it would have been especially amusing to hear their take on the disastrous proposal dinner. And it looks like this idea of talking animal heads would have extended to even more creatures, including turtles, birds, and what looks like an anteater, as we see in this unused concept art in the Art of Encanto book, which also has a talking rhino and bear with a fish. Leave a thumbs up and comment if you wish these funny creatures had been in the movie. Camilo in Wonderland. Now, Camilo does a fantastic evil transformation into Bruno when he describes his uncle as having a 7-foot frame during We Don't Talk About Bruno. However, Encanto co-director Jared Bush has revealed a weird and wonderful animated sequence where Camilo was telling stories about his uncle to his friends, and as he transformed, he grew to an absolutely gigantic version of him. This deleted scene has some strong Alice in Wonderland vibes, as a giant room with a tiny door at the bottom looks very similar to the room where Alice meets the talking doorknob. The Indestructible Pepa. There's a wacky deleted scene that Disney released of Mirabel doing chores with her father and Uncle Felix. Abuela had tasked them with cleaning up the house while the rest of the magical family were sent off to perform more spectacular tasks.
This job in here is the most special.
It totally is.
The scene was meant to show the contrast between the non-magical members of the family and those with powers.
Looking great, mommy. What's the rock?
Thank you, Papa! You're well. Still alive!
In this early version of the story, Mirabel's Aunt Pepa had the power of indestructibility rather than being able to control the weather. This made Pepa into something of a daredevil, performing crazy deeds far too dangerous for any ordinary person. And in that version, it was Mirabel's mother, Julieta, who had weather powers. The problem with the indestructible Pepa, though, was that her powers felt too similar to Luisa's great strength, so that's why, in the end, she was given control of the weather. The deleted scene also reveals a slightly different take on why Bruno, or Oscar as he was then known, left the family.
He said a bunch of stuff. Abuela got mad, and when Abuela got mad, the house got mad, and he was like, I'm out. And Abuela was like, if you leave this house, you are dead to me. And Oscar was like, I wish I was dead. Then he left.
The house getting mad together with Alma is from an early draft of the story, where the casita was an extension of Abuela, and we would have seen this in things like a room's wallpaper changing to match Alma's mood and colours as she moved around the house. Magical Doorknob Quest. In a version of the story before they'd even created the character of Mirabel, after receiving a mysterious doorknob through the mail, the film's female protagonist was sent on a quest to discover the secrets of the Encanto. And this later concept art of Mirabel unlocking a secret door with a magical doorknob has some intriguing Coraline and Pan's Labyrinth vibes about it, mixed with Studio Ghibli. An element of the magical doorknob still made it into the final film though, when, at the end, Antonio gives Mirabel a doorknob with her initial on it, which she uses to bring the reconstructed casita back to magical life. Bad Casita. Initial concepts for the magical house also gave it a more mischievous personality, and it was even antagonistic towards Mirabel to begin with. Bad Casita initially tried to stop Mirabel on her quest. For example, there was this moment when the house sent her shooting up into the sky, another moment where it looks like it blocked her way through a door by putting another door in her way, and then there was this scene where it appears to have flooded her bedroom. And in another spooky, unused scene, family members discover Casita is spying on their private conversation about how they think the house is crazy. And in this zany test animation, Mirabel had to compete with Casita for Abuela's approval, while the house deliberately sabotaged her efforts to please her grandmother. Funhouse Casita, and Encanto almost had an additional mind-bending sci-fi-ish element blended with its magical realism, giving it shades of Doctor Strange or Inception, where Casita would have turned itself into a funhouse, creating these weird, slanting, disorienting corridors and doorways that folded in on themselves. This idea also reminds me of these trippy visuals in the third Conjuring movie, The Devil Made Me Do It. Space-bending Casita. In another strangely entertaining version of Casita, the space in the house would have made even less logical sense. For example, in this unused concept art, Mirabel could hide in this cabinet over on the left, but her arm would be able to emerge magically through this cupboard on the right so she could sneak a pastry or two. Mirabel's deep dive. And in another unused Casita storyline, there was a vast underwater world beneath the house that Mirabel had to explore, which I suspect was part of her original quest. Magical wallpaper. In the end, the filmmakers opted to make Casita a much friendlier character, and we can see that change in this unused concept art, where the house helped Mirabel by folding pieces of wallpaper into magical birds that would guide her on her mission to discover the mystery of the Encanto. In some other art, it also appears the wallpaper could act as a portal or door to a magical world behind the walls. In this art, a door seems to open up in Isabella's bedroom wall to a place where she could relax and be happy. Then there's this unused art, which shows how originally Casita's mood was going to reflect Mirabel's mood. For example, here you can see the wallpaper crying, while Mirabel feels sad at being left out of the family fun. And the house also joined in on reenactments of historical battles with Isabella's magical potato people. More on that later. Coffee with Casita. I love this idea of Mirabel sharing a morning coffee with the magical house and putting hats on the chairs and lamp the Casita communicated through. We got a little touch of this rejected idea in the final movie, when Casita pours coffee for the family. Luisa holds up the sky. It's a shame we didn't get to see inside Luisa's room because there were some very cool ideas for how it would look. For instance, the room would have had several large boulders that fell from above, and Luisa had to keep them up with her feet. That idea was intended to be reminiscent of the myth of Atlas carrying the sky. Most of the things in the room appear to be made of rocks, including the stone bed, but one especially sweet contrasting detail is the little puppy Luisa holds, and there's some more cute concept art of Luisa with puppies here. Jungle furniture. As impressive as Antonio's room is in the movie, an early idea had an even more surreal design. For example, the furniture inside had merged with parts of the rainforest, and the windows were portals into the jungle with waterfalls streaming through. In the end though, these were deemed too confusing to use for the final film. Colombian rock. As for the emerald vision tablet that Mirabel found in Bruno's room, the original design was a lot more stylized, and its look was inspired by the San Agustin statues in Colombia. Alma's nightmare. Abuela's trauma from losing her husband Pedro was a key element of the final movie, but in an earlier storyline she was also going to have a nightmarish vision of some terrifying ghost-like horse riders, which would have brought back the horrors of what happened by the river with Pedro. The idea was scrapped though for being too scary, and also because it was considered too similar to scenes with the Droon in Disney's Raya and the Last Dragon. The Forbidden Forest. Another dark deleted storyline had Mirabel venturing outside the safety of Casita and into what was dubbed a forbidden forest. The off-limits spiky wooded area looks like it's part of an early version of the movie where Mirabel was going to discover Isabella's secret garden. In fact, Isabella was incredibly different in the original Encanto story. She had a secret boyfriend who she married, and she could even create living magical potato creatures. And you can get all the details on that in my Isabella deleted scenes video. Tap here to watch it, and there's also a link in the video description. Plus subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss my next Disney video. So movie lovers, would you like to see any of these unused storylines in an Encanto sequel? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Tap left for my full Encanto playlist and discover the shocking alternate endings to the movie you never got to see. And if you liked this, do leave a thumbs up, I really appreciate it. Thanks for enjoying this movie with me, and hope you have a marvellous movie loving week. Yippee-ki-yay, movie lovers!